The Empire had conquered 47 different species across 3 galaxies. They were the most powerful force in the known universe. Their ships were massive, their weapons were deadly, and their soldiers were strong. No species had ever defeated them. No species had ever even tried. When their warships appeared in Earth's sky, Commander stood on the bridge of his flagship and smiled. He had done this many times before. He knew exactly how it would go. The primitive species would see his 10,000 ships blocking out their sun. They would panic. They would beg. And then they would surrender. It was always the same. Was a tall creature, nearly 3 meters in height. His skin was dark purple, and his 4 arms were crossed over his chest as he watched the blue planet below. His compound eyes could see in every direction at once. His species, they were perfect hunters, perfect warriors, perfect conquerors. "Commander," his tactical officer said, "the humans are sending a ship." Turned his head slightly, just one. "Yes, Commander, a small shuttle, 2 life signs aboard." The other officers on the bridge laughed. 2 individuals against 10,000 warships. This was either bravery or stupidity. Suspected it was stupidity. "Let them dock," he ordered. "I want to see these humans before we take their world." The shuttle was tiny compared to the warships. It looked like a toy floating through space. When it landed in the docking bay, went down to meet the humans personally. He brought 20 of his best soldiers with him, not because he was afraid, but because he wanted to show the humans what they were facing. The shuttle door opened. 2 humans stepped out. The first was a male. He was short by standards, barely reaching his chest. He had black hair cut close to his head and dark eyes that seemed very calm, too calm. He wore a simple military uniform with no decorations except for a small flag on his shoulder. The second was a female, slightly shorter than the male. She had long black hair tied back in a neat style. She carried a small device in her hands, which guessed was a translator. "I am Commander of the Empire," announced, his voice echoing through the docking bay. "You stand before the greatest military force in 3 galaxies. Your planet is surrounded. Your weapons are useless against our ships. I am here to accept your unconditional surrender." The male human did not look scared. He did not even look worried. He simply looked at the way a person might look at a cloud in the sky. Curious, but not impressed. "I am Captain Park," the human said through the translator. "This is Lieutenant. We are here to discuss terms." Laughed. His soldiers laughed with him. The sound filled the docking bay like thunder. "Discuss terms. Little human, there are no terms to discuss. You surrender or you die. Those are the only options your species has." Did not laugh. He did not smile. He simply waited until the laughter stopped. "And if we refuse?" he asked. The laughter died instantly. Stared at the human. In all his years of conquest across all the species he had crushed under his heel, no one had ever asked that question. Every species saw the overwhelming force of the fleet and did the math. They calculated the odds. They realized they could not win, and they surrendered. But this human was asking what would happen if they refused. "If you refuse," said slowly, "we will burn your cities to ash. We will enslave your people. We will take everything you have and leave nothing behind." "I see," said. His voice was still calm. "And how long would that take?" Narrowed his compound eyes. "What? How long would it take to burn our cities, to enslave our people? How many of your soldiers would die in the process? How many of your ships would we destroy before you finished?" Glanced at her captain with wide eyes. She had not expected him to say this. She had expected him to be diplomatic, careful, polite. Instead, he was poking the most dangerous creature in 3 galaxies. Stepped forward until he was towering over the human captain. "You dare threaten me?" "I am asking questions," replied. "My people have a saying, 'Know your enemy.' I am trying to know you, Commander. Are they the kind of species that accepts unnecessary losses, or are you practical?" Studied the human for a long moment. There was something strange about this creature, something that did not fit the pattern of conquered species. Most beings in this situation would be shaking with fear. Their hearts would be racing. Their bodies would be preparing to run. But this human's heartbeat was slow and steady. His breathing was calm. His eyes were focused on with an intensity that was almost unsettling. "You are either very brave or very foolish," said. "I have been told I am both," replied. Despite himself, felt a small spark of interest. This human was entertaining. It would be a shame to simply crush him. "I will offer you something," said. "A chance to prove your species has value beyond slavery, a test of your strength." Stepped forward. "What kind of test?" "A duel," said. "Your champion against our champion. If your warrior wins, we will negotiate. If our warrior wins, your planet surrenders immediately, and your people will serve the Empire as the lowest class of slaves." His face went pale. "That is not a fair deal. Your species is stronger, faster, and larger than us. Your champion would be." "I accept," said. Spun to face him. "Captain, you cannot be serious. Their champion is probably 3 meters tall. They have 4 arms. Their reflexes are—" "I accept," repeated, looking directly at. "When does the duel take place?" Smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Tomorrow, in the arena of worlds. It will be broadcast across the entire empire. Billions will watch your species fall." "Then billions will watch," said simply. He turned and walked back toward the shuttle. Hurried after him, grabbing his arm once they were inside. "Captain, what are you doing? This is suicide. You are not a fighter, you are a diplomat. You are supposed to negotiate, not duel alien warriors." Sat down in the pilot's seat and began the launch sequence. His movements were slow and precise, like everything he did. "I was not always a captain," he said quietly. "Before the military, I trained in something older, something my family has passed down for 600 years." "What are you talking about?" Looked at her and for the first time saw something in his eyes that she had never seen before. It was not fear. It was not confidence. It was something deeper, something ancient. "My grandmother started my training when I was 3 years old," he said. "She put a knife in my hand and taught me to cut vegetables, not because she wanted me to cook, because she wanted my hands to learn precision. My mother taught me calligraphy at 4, not because she wanted me to write beautifully, because she wanted my mind to learn focus. My father put a wooden sword in my hands at 5, and for 35 years I have practiced every single day." Stared at him. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because tomorrow I am going to show the something they have never seen before, and I need you to watch carefully. I need you to remember everything, because the future of our species depends on what happens in that arena." The shuttle lifted off and flew back toward Earth. Behind them, Commander watched the tiny ship disappear into the darkness of space. He was still smiling. He had no idea what was coming. The Arena of Worlds was the largest structure in the Empire. It floated in space, a massive sphere made of metal and glass, surrounded by thousands of smaller ships carrying spectators from across 3 galaxies. Inside, there was a circular platform where warriors fought. Around the platform, seats rose up in every direction, filled with millions of creatures from dozens of different species. All of them had come to watch the human die. Captain Park stood in a small room beneath the arena preparing himself. He wore simple clothes, plain dark pants, a loose white shirt, soft shoes that gripped the floor. He carried no armor. He had no shield. His only weapon was a wooden sword, of the same kind of training sword he had used since he was a child. Lieutenant stood at the door, her face filled with worry. "The champion has killed 400 challengers in this arena," she said. "His name is. His species has reflexes 3 times faster than any other known organism. His compound eyes can track movement in microseconds. His exoskeleton can withstand plasma fire. Captain, please. There must be another way." Did not answer. He was sitting on the floor with his eyes closed, breathing slowly. His hands rested on his knees. He had been sitting like this for an hour. "Captain," "I heard you," said softly. 400 kills, fast reflexes, strong armor, I understand. Then why are you not scared?" Opened his eyes. They were calm, like the surface of a still lake. "Fear is a reaction," he said. "My teacher taught me to move beyond reactions, to see what is coming before it arrives, to act without thinking because thinking is too slow." The door opened behind. 2 figures pushed past her and entered the room, spun around, reaching for her sidearm, then stopped. "Minyu, Sara, what are you doing here?" Sergeant Minyu was a large man with broad shoulders and a scar across his chin. Corporal Hand Sara was smaller, with sharp eyes and quick movements. Both were wearing civilian clothes, but could see the shapes of hidden weapons beneath their jackets. "We smuggled ourselves aboard," Minyu said with a grin. "You did not think we would let the captain face this alone." "This is against direct orders," said. "General specifically said." "General is not here," Sora interrupted. "We are. If the captain dies, we are taking as many with us as we can." Looked at his soldiers and shook his head slowly. "No one is taking anyone. You will watch. You will not interfere. That is an order." "But Captain—" Minyu's voice was quiet, but there was steel in it. "I did not come here to start a war. I came here to prevent one. If you attack everything I am about to do will be meaningless. Do you understand?" Minyu's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "Yes, sir." Good stood up and stretched his arms. His movements were slow and fluid, like water flowing. "Now, let us go show them what a human can do." The walk to the arena platform felt like a dream, moved through long corridors filled with guards who towered over him. They looked at him with amusement, with pity, with hunger. He looked back at them with nothing. His face was empty. His eyes saw everything but reacted to nothing. When he stepped onto the platform, the roar of the crowd hit him like a wave. Millions of voices screaming, cheering, laughing. Above him, massive screens showed his face to billions more across the empire. He was small. He was weak. He was entertainment. On the other side of the platform stood Champion. The warrior was enormous, 3 meters tall, with 4 arms ending in clawed hands. His exoskeleton was dark red, covered in scars from previous battles. In one of his upper hands, he held a ceremonial blade, curved and gleaming under the artificial lights. The blade had killed 400 challengers. Soon it would kill 401. Or so the Empire believed. Commander sat in the highest box, surrounded by his officers. He leaned forward with interest as he watched the human approach the center of the platform. "Look at his weapon," said. "It is made of wood. Does he mean to insult us?" His tactical officer checked the sensors. "The wood is dense, Commander, some kind of hardened material, but it is still just wood. It cannot cut. It cannot penetrate armor." "Then what is the point?" No one had an answer. On the observation deck below's box stood between Minyu and Sara. She was trembling slightly. Minyu put a hand on her shoulder. "Have faith," he said. "You have never seen the captain actually fight." "What do you mean?" Sara answered without taking her eyes off the arena. "There is a reason they call him the Ghost. In training simulations, no one can hit him. No one can even touch him. He moves like he is not really there." "But those are simulations. This is real. That thing down there will kill him." "Maybe," Sora said. "Or maybe that thing down there is about to learn something new." Down on the platform, stepped forward and raised his blade. "Human," he said, his voice carrying across the arena. "You have come to die. I will make it quick if you kneel and beg." Did not answer. He simply stood with his wooden sword held loosely at his side. His eyes were on, watching, measuring, seeing things that no one else could see. "You mock our traditions with that toy," snarled. "You dare face me with a piece of wood." "Where I come from," said quietly, We believe the weapon matters less than the one who holds it. The signal was given. Moved first. He was fast, faster than anything had ever faced. The blade came at his neck like lightning, cutting through the air with enough force to split steel. Was not there. He had stepped to the side so smoothly, so perfectly, that it looked like had missed on purpose. The champion stumbled, confused. He spun and struck again, a horizontal slash aimed at its chest. Again, the human was not there. The crowd went quiet. Attacked again, and again, and again. Each strike was faster than the last. Each strike was aimed perfectly. And each time the human simply moved out of the way. He did not block. He did not dodge at the last moment. He moved before the attack even began, as if he knew where the blade would be before decided to swing it. Up in the command box was no longer smiling. "What is happening?" he demanded. "Why can our champion not hit him?" His tactical officer's voice was shaking. "Commander, the human is not reacting to the attacks. He is moving before them. Our sensors show that he begins his movement 0.02 seconds before begins his strike. He is reading the champion's intentions." "That is impossible." "The data does not lie, Commander." On the platform was becoming desperate. He had never faced anything like this. Every species he had fought relied on the same thing: see the attack, react to the attack, try to block or dodge. This human was not reacting at all. He was predicting. His attacks became wild, uncontrolled. He swung from every angle using all four arms, moving at the peak of his species' capabilities. And still the human danced around him like smoke, untouchable, unreachable. 5 minutes passed. 10 minutes was beginning to tire. His movements were slowing. His breathing was heavy. Had not even raised his wooden sword. In the observation deck, watched with tears streaming down her face. She did not know if they were tears of fear or tears of wonder. "He is not even fighting," she whispered. "He is just showing them." Minyu nodded slowly. "He is showing them what humans can become, what 35 years of training can create. He is showing them that power means nothing without precision." On the platform, Champion finally stopped. His arms hung at his sides. His blade dripped with sweat from his own body. He stared at the human with something new in his compound eyes. "Fear." "What are you?" asked. Looked at him with those calm, ancient eyes. "I am human," he said simply, "and this is only the beginning." For 10 minutes, the greatest warrior of the Empire had attacked with everything he had. And for 10 minutes, he had hit nothing but air. Champion stood in the center of the arena, his four arms trembling. His species did not sweat like humans did, but something was leaking from his pores. A chemical signal, a smell that every in the arena could recognize. The smell of fear. The small human had not attacked once. He had not even raised his wooden sword. He had simply moved, stepping aside from each strike like water flowing around a stone, and now was tired, confused, and terrified. Commander watched from his command box with growing anger. This was not supposed to happen. The duel was supposed to be a quick demonstration of superiority. The human was supposed to die in seconds. Instead, billions across the Empire were watching their champion fail. "And this," ordered through his communicator, "stop playing with him and kill him now." Heard the command in his earpiece. His shame burned hotter than his fear. He was making the Empire look weak. He was making his species look foolish. He needed to finish this, no matter what it took. He looked at the human standing before him. The creature was so small, so fragile. One good hit would break every bone in his body, but could not land that hit. Every time he swung, the human was already somewhere else. Unless he could not dodge. Made a decision. It was against the rules of the arena. It was a move that would dishonor him among his own people. But he did not care anymore. He needed to kill this human, and he needed to do it now. He raised his ceremonial blade above his head, as if preparing for an overhead strike. The human shifted his weight, ready to step aside, and then threw the blade. Not at the floor, not as a distraction. He threw it directly at the human's chest with all the strength of his 4 arms. The blade spun through the air at 200 kilometers per hour. It was a killing throw. No species could dodge it at this distance. In the observation deck screamed. Minyu lunged forward, but Sora grabbed his arm. "Wait," she said, her eyes locked on the arena. "Watch." The blade flew its chest like a silver missile. Time seemed to slow down. The crowd held its breath. On millions of screens across the Empire, billions of eyes watched what should have been an execution. His hand moved. Not his body, just his hand. It shot up faster than any camera could clearly capture. His fingers closed around the blade at exactly the right point, the precise spot where the spinning momentum canceled into stillness. He caught the sword midair. The arena went absolutely silent. No one moved. No one breathed. Every single creature in that massive structure simply stared at the human standing calmly on the platform, holding the enemy blade by its razor edge. A single drop of blood fell from between his fingers. Just one drop. His grip was so precise, so perfect, that only a tiny cut had formed on his palm. Up in the command box, Commander rose slowly from his seat. His compound eyes were wide. His 4 arms hung limply at his sides. "That is impossible," he whispered. His tactical officer was checking the sensors with shaking hands. "Commander, our fastest cameras clocked that blade at 200 kilometers per hour. Our champion's reflexes operate at 0.003 seconds. The human caught it at 0.001 seconds. That is 3 times faster than our best warrior. How their species is supposed to be slow, weak, how can this be?" In the observation deck, Minyu was laughing. Not because something was funny, but because he could not believe what he had just seen. He said too, "The captain's family has practiced it for 600 years. His ancestors were warriors who fought with swords against armies. They trained their bodies and minds to see death coming and step out of its way." Could not speak. Her legs felt weak. She grabbed the railing to keep herself standing. On the platform, examined the blade in his hand. He turned it slowly, looking at the craftsmanship, feeling the weight. Then he looked up at. The champion had not moved since the throw. He was frozen, staring at the human like he was looking at a ghost. "Where I come from," said softly, "we have a saying, the sword that cannot be seen cannot be blocked. But you champion," he shook his head slowly. "Your movements are loud, your intentions scream. I could see every attack before you made it. I could hear your muscles tighten before they moved. I could feel your breath change before each strike." He walked toward, still holding the blade. The champion took a step back, then another. His legs were shaking. "I could have killed you 14 times since this duel began," continued. "When you extended too far on your third strike, your neck was open for 2 full seconds. When you spun for the overhead attack, your back was turned. When you raised all 4 arms at once, your chest was completely unprotected." He stopped directly in front of and held out the blade, handle first. "I did not come here to kill you. I came here to show you something." Stared at the offered weapon. His clawed hand reached out slowly, hesitantly, like he was touching something dangerous. He took the blade. "What did you show me?" asked. His voice was barely a whisper. "That you can be beaten," said. "That strength and speed are not everything. That a smaller, weaker species can stand against the greatest warrior of the greatest empire, and not only survive, but choose to let you live." He turned his back on and began walking toward the edge of the platform. The champion stood alone, holding his blade, looking at the small human walking away from him. He had killed 400 challengers in this arena. He had never lost. He had never even been challenged. And now a creature half his size had caught his death blow with bare hands, and then given it back to him. Fell to his knees. His blade clattered to the floor beside him. In the command box, watched his champion kneel in defeat. The commander's mind was racing. This changed everything. If one human could do this, how many more could? If they trained their warriors for generations, what else could they do? "Commander," his tactical officer said quietly, "the broadcast has been seen across the entire empire. Every species we have conquered is watching. They are seeing our champion lose to a human." Knew what that meant. The conquered species stayed obedient because they believed they could not be defeated. If that belief cracked, rebellions would follow. Wars would start. The empire could fall apart from within. All because of one small human with a wooden sword. Down on the platform, reached the edge and stopped. He turned to face the crowd. Millions of alien faces stared down at him. Most were, but there were others too. Smaller species, weaker species, species that had been conquered and enslaved. He saw hope in their eyes. "My name is Park," he said, his voice amplified across the arena. "I am a human from a planet called Earth. Today I did not come to fight your champion. I came to deliver a message." He held up his hand, showing the thin line of blood on his palm. "This is what it costs to stop death. One drop of blood and 35 years of training. Every human is capable of this. Not because we are special, not because we are born strong, but because we never stop trying to be better. We train, we practice, we fail and we get up and we fail again until failing becomes impossible." He lowered his hand. "The Empire has conquered 47 species. You believe you are the most powerful force in the universe. But power is not just about weapons and ships and armies. Power is about will, about determination, about refusing to accept limits." His eyes swept across the crowd. "Today, I caught a sword. Tomorrow, my people might catch something bigger. The Empire should ask itself a question before it decides what to do with humanity." He paused, letting the silence stretch. "Do you really want to find out what we can do when we are truly fighting?" He turned and walked off the platform, leaving the arena of worlds in stunned silence. In the observation deck was crying openly now. Minyu had his fist pressed against his mouth, trying to control his emotions. Sora stood perfectly still, her sharp eyes following the captain until he disappeared from view. "He did it," whispered. "He actually did it." "No," Sora said quietly. "He did something better. He gave them a reason to be afraid, and fear is a much better weapon than violence." In the command box, Commander sat back down in his chair. His hands were shaking. For the first time in his long career of conquest, he did not know what to do next. The human had caught a sword midair and then walked away. And somehow, that was more terrifying than if he had killed the champion. In the days following the duel, Commander did not sleep. He could not. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the human catching that blade. He saw his champion falling to his knees. He saw the conquered species in the arena looking at the human with hope in their eyes. That hope was dangerous, more dangerous than any weapon. Gathered his best scientists and ordered them to study everything about humanity. Every piece of data, every recording, every signal that had ever come from the blue planet called Earth. He needed to understand these creatures. He needed to know if the human called was special or if he was normal. What they found terrified him. The first report came from the biology team. They had analyzed human physical capabilities based on recordings from Earth. "Their reaction times vary wildly," the lead scientist explained, standing before a holographic display. "An average human reacts in about 0.25 seconds, but their trained warriors, the ones they call athletes and soldiers, can operate much faster. Some of them reach reaction times below 0.1 seconds. "That is still slower than us," said. "Yes, Commander, but there is something strange. The human called was not reacting at all. He was predicting. He moved before the attacks came. Our analysis shows he was reading small movements in his body. The tensing of muscles, the shifting of weight, the direction of the eyes. Leaned forward, he could see the attack before it happened. Yes, the humans call this ability reading or anticipation. They develop it through years of training. Their martial disciplines are designed to teach the brain to process information faster than conscious thought. When caught that blade, he was not reacting to it. He already knew exactly where it would be and when it would arrive. This information disturbed deeply. They relied on their superior reflexes in combat. They were faster than every other species. But what good was speed if the enemy knew what you were going to do? The second report came from the cultural analysis team. They had studied human history and found something even more disturbing. Commander, the humans have been fighting each other for their entire existence. They have developed thousands of different combat systems, not dozens, thousands. The holographic display showed images of humans fighting in hundreds of different ways. Kicks and punches, throws and locks, weapons of every kind, movements that looked like dancing and movements that looked like murder. This one is called MAGA, the analyst said, pointing to a recording. It was created specifically to kill as quickly and efficiently as possible. It teaches humans to target eyes, throat, and reproductive organs. It assumes the fighter will face multiple enemies and must disable each one in seconds. Another image appeared. This is Brazilian. It allows a smaller human to defeat a larger one through leverage and joint manipulation. A human half the size of their opponent can break bones and cut off blood to the brain. More images flowed across the screen. Boxing, wrestling, Thai, judo, taekwondo, Kong in dozens of variations, sword arts from every continent, fighting systems that used sticks, chains, and objects that were not even designed as weapons. They have spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of killing each other, the analyst concluded. Every culture has its own methods. Every generation adds something new. The human called practice something called a Korean sword art. His family passed it down for 600 years. Each generation trained harder than the last. Stood up from his command chair and walked to the window of his ship. He looked out at Earth, the small blue planet floating in space. They fight each other, he said slowly. For thousands of years, they have been practicing warfare against opponents exactly as smart and creative as themselves. Yes, Commander. While we conquered weaker species who surrendered without resistance. The analyst did not answer. The silence was answer enough. The third report came from the physical capabilities team. They had analyzed recordings of human sports. At first, thought sports were just games, entertainment for children. He was wrong. They compete against each other, the team leader explained. Not to kill, but to see who is strongest, fastest, most skilled. They call these competitions the Olympic Games. They have been doing this for thousands of years. The display showed a human female twisting through the air, her body spinning and flipping with impossible grace before landing perfectly on her feet. This is called gymnastics. Humans train their bodies to do things that our biology team initially thought were faked. The flexibility, the precision, the control over every muscle. Another recording showed a human male lifting a massive weight above his head. The bar bent under the load. The human's face was red with effort, veins standing out on his neck. This human is lifting 263 kilograms. That is more than 3 times his own body weight. He trained for 20 years to achieve this. More recordings followed. Humans running impossible distances. Humans swimming through water for hours. Humans climbing vertical surfaces with only their hands. Humans fighting in cages until one could no longer stand. They do this voluntarily, said, for entertainment. Yes, Commander, they call it sport, but our analysis suggests it serves another purpose. It identifies the strongest, fastest, and most skilled individuals in their species. It pushes their entire population to be better, and it gives them heroes, role models, examples of what humans can become. Turned away from the window. His forearms were clasped behind his back, a gesture of deep thought among his species. They train their entire population for war, he said quietly, and they call it games. Meanwhile, aboard the human diplomatic shuttle, Captain received a transmission from Earth. General appeared on the screen. She was an older woman with gray hair and hard eyes. She had been a soldier for 40 years. She had seen wars and famines and disasters. Nothing surprised her anymore. But even she seemed impressed. The demonstration was successful, Captain. They are scared. Our intelligence shows their fleet has not moved since the duel. They are running calculations. What kind of calculations, General? Lieutenant asked. War simulations. They are trying to figure out what would happen if they invaded Earth. Sergeant Minu leaned forward. Let them come. We will show them what humans can really do. That is exactly what we do not want, General said firmly. Captain Park did not fight in that arena to start a war. He fought to prevent one. The goal is to make them believe that conquering Earth would cost them more than they would gain. Nodded slowly. They are a practical species. They conquer because it is efficient. If conquest becomes inefficient, they will negotiate instead. Exactly. General's face softened slightly. Your grandfather would be proud, Captain. He always said that the greatest victory is the battle that never happens. My grandfather also said that the second greatest victory is terrifying your enemy so badly that he becomes your ally. General almost smiled. One step at a time. For now, we wait. Let them run their simulations. Let them see what we are capable of. And when they are ready to talk, we will be ready to listen. The transmission ended, sat down heavily in her chair. Do you think it will work? She asked. Do you think they will really choose peace? Looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the fleet was floating in the darkness, 17,000 simulations running on their computers. Fear is a powerful motivator, he said, but respect is better. They feared us after the duel. Now they need to respect us. They need to understand that we are not just dangerous, we are valuable. Valuable how? Turn to face her. What if we offered to teach them? The conquer because they believe they are the best, but we just showed them that a human can catch death with bare hands. What would they give to learn how we do it? Minu laughed. You want to teach aliens how to fight like humans. I want to give them a reason to keep us alive. Fear will only work for so long. Eventually, they will decide we are too dangerous and try to destroy us. But if we make ourselves useful, if we become allies instead of enemies, then we have real safety. Sara, who had been silent this whole time, spoke up. The captain is right. They have conquered 47 species. They have taken their technology, their resources, their populations. But they have never conquered a species that could teach them something new. We could be the first. Consider this. You want to turn a potential war into a partnership. I want to turn a potential extinction into a future, said simply. The universe is large. Humanity is small. We cannot fight everyone. We need to find another way. He sat down and closed his eyes, returning to the calm stillness that had carried him through the duel. Now we wait, he said, and we see if they are as smart as I think they are. In his flagship, Commander stared at the 17,000 simulation result. Every single one showed the same thing. A war with humanity would be long, bloody, and expensive. Even if the Empire won, they would lose so many ships, so many soldiers, so much time that other conquered species might rebel. The cost was too high. But there was something else in the simulations, something unexpected. A few scenarios showed what would happen if they allied with humanity instead of conquering them. The results were remarkable. Human creativity combined with technology. Human determination combined with resources. The partnership would make the empire stronger than ever before. Sat back in his chair and made a decision. He would request negotiations. 1 week after the duel, Commander sent a message to Earth requesting formal negotiations. The message surprised everyone in the fleet. In the entire history of the Empire, they had never negotiated with a species they intended to conquer. They either won or there was no middle ground. But humanity was different. The simulations had proven that. The negotiations took place on a neutral station between Earth and the fleet. Both sides brought diplomats, scientists, and military officers. Captain Park was there, along with Lieutenant Sergeant Minu and Corporal Hansara. On the side, Commander led the delegation personally. The two leaders met in a large circular room with transparent walls that showed the stars on every side. They sat across from each other at a long table, surrounded by their teams. For a long moment, no one spoke. Studied the human captain. The creature looked even smaller in person than he had seemed on the arena cameras. How could something so fragile be so dangerous? "You caught a sword," finally said. "We have analyzed the footage 1,000,000 times. It should not be possible." Did not blink, and yet it happened. Yes, it happened. Leaned back in his chair. My scientists tell me that your reflexes are not exceptional by human standards. You are not the fastest or strongest of your species. You are simply well-trained. That is correct. They also tell me that your species has thousands of training systems like yours, each one designed to push the body and mind beyond normal limits, each one passed down through generations. Also correct. His compound eyes narrowed. Why? Why would a species spend so much time preparing for combat? On every other world we have visited, the beings use technology to fight. They build weapons. They rely on machines. But your species treats the body itself as a weapon. Considered the question carefully before answering. "We do not trust machines," he said. "Machines can break. Machines can be taken away. But the skills in my body belong to me. No one can steal them. No one can disable them. They are mine until the day I die." But the time required, the generations of practice, surely there are more efficient ways. There are faster ways, agreed, but not better ways. When my grandmother taught me to cut vegetables at 3 years old, she was teaching me more than precision. She was teaching me patience. When my mother taught me calligraphy, she was teaching me focus. When my father put a sword in my hands, he was teaching me discipline. He held up his hand, showing the thin scar where he had caught the blade. "This mark will stay with me forever. It reminds me of what I am capable of. It reminds me that 35 years of practice can stop death in mid-flight. That knowledge is worth more than any weapon." Was quiet for a long time. Around the table, both delegations waited in tense silence. Finally, the commander spoke. "We ran 17,000 simulations of a war with your species. In every scenario where humanity was pushed to desperation, the results were catastrophic, not just for Earth, for the Empire as well." Leaned forward. "What do you mean?" "Your species does not surrender when cornered. You escalate. Our simulations showed that if we invaded Earth, you would destroy your own cities before letting us take them. You would release biological weapons that your own people created. You would turn your nuclear arsenals against our landing forces, even if it meant poisoning your own soil." Shook his head slowly. "You went to your moon using mathematics and controlled explosions, just 50 years after your first powered flight. In another 100 years, you would have reached the stars on your own. In 1,000 years, you might have surpassed us." "Is that why you want peace?" Minu asked. "Because you are afraid of what we might become." "We want peace because we are practical," corrected. "The cost of conquering Earth is too high. The benefits of alliance are too great. It is simple mathematics." He turned to face directly. "But I must understand something first. In the arena, you could have killed our champion. You chose not to. Why?" Met the commander's gaze without flinching. "Because killing him would have proven that humans are dangerous. Sparing him proved that humans can be trusted. A dangerous species must be destroyed. A trustworthy species can be partnered with. You planned this from the beginning. I planned for several outcomes. This was the one I hoped for. Made a sound that might have been a laugh. You are more frightening than I realized, Captain. Your body is dangerous, but your mind is the real weapon. My mind is the product of my species, said. Every human thinks this way. We plan, we prepare, we consider every possibility, and when the moment comes, we act without hesitation. The negotiations continued for 3 more days. In the end, a treaty was signed. The Empire would withdraw from Earth's territory. In exchange, humanity would share certain training techniques and allow cultural exchange programs. The two species would become partners, not enemies. On the day the treaty was signed, the 4 humans stood together on the observation deck of the station, watching the fleet begin its withdrawal. 10,000 ships turning away from Earth, their weapons powering down, their conquest abandoned. Had tears in her eyes again. We did it, she whispered. We actually did it. The captain did it, Minyu said. We just watched. Sora shook her head. We all did it. Every human who ever trained their body, who ever pushed past their limits, who ever refused to give up. They are all part of this victory. Stood apart from the others, his hands clasped behind his back. He watched the stars in silence. Approached him one final time before departing. I have one more question, the commander said. Ask. The others of your species, the ones who are not warriors, the scientists and doctors and artists you mentioned, why do you say they are even more dangerous than you? Smiled slightly. It was the first time he had smiled since the duel. I can catch a sword, he said. But our scientists can catch diseases and turn them into cures. Our doctors can catch death itself and hold it back for decades. Our artists can catch emotions and put them into songs that make people weep or fight or fall in love. He turned to face fully. I trained for 35 years to do one thing well, but humanity has been training for 10,000 years to do everything well. We are not a species of warriors, Commander. We are a species that refuses to accept limits. Whatever challenge we face, we find a way to overcome it. Whatever wall stands before us, we climb it or break through it or tunnel underneath it. He looked back at Earth, the small blue planet visible through the transparent walls. That is why you should not fight us. Not because we are dangerous, but because we never stop getting better. Today I caught a sword. Tomorrow my children might catch something bigger, and their children might catch something bigger still. Given enough time, there is nothing humanity cannot achieve. Stood in silence for a long moment. Then he extended one of his 4 hands. Took it. Perhaps we will learn from each other, said. Perhaps we will, agreed. The commander returned to his ship and the fleet departed. Earth was safe. Humanity had won, not through violence, but through something more powerful. They had won through demonstration, through discipline, through the accumulated wisdom of countless generations who had trained and practiced, and passed their knowledge down to those who came after. Years later, human diplomats would joke that the war was won with a single catch, but those who understood knew the truth. The war was won because one species had looked at the universe and said, "We can do better," and then spent 10,000 years proving it. In the archives of the Empire, the recording of catching the sword became legendary. It was studied by military academies across 3 galaxies. Other species watched it and began to hope. Conquered worlds saw a human half the size of a champion defeat their oppressors without throwing a single punch. And slowly, things began to change. The Empire became a confederacy. Conquered species became partners, and humanity took its place among the stars, not as conquerors but as teachers. Because the greatest victory is not destroying your enemies. It is turning them into allies. And that is exactly what humanity did.